United States has been dubbed the melting pot based on the diverse populations and influences of immigrants from all over the world. Yet if we are so diverse, why is it that only about 25% of the people living in the United States can hold a conversation in a language aside from English? The U.S. is lacking their ability to speak more than one language, and we need to keep up with the globalizing world. There are 3 points I'm going to cover in this speech: Americans' perspective of learning another language, non-English speakers' perspective of learning another language, and the solution, which is implementing foreign language instruction during elementary school years. Americans view learning a foreign language as something extracurricular rather than a necessity. Us college students can relate. Many of us did not begin taking a foreign language until our junior high or high school years. Current research suggests that for adolescents, the crucial time for learning a second language is already past by the time students reach high school. This critical period hypothesis claims that there is an optimal period for language acquisition ending at puberty, according to Beale. At this point, we already have a decreased chance of ever being fluent, and one of the only ways to ever become fluent is if we choose to study abroad or spend an extended amount of time in a non-English speaking nation. Most Americans cast learning of a foreign language as something mother tongue speakers should do, but as something which is not necessary. On the other hand, when American students were asked if non-English speaking countries should need to know English, there is a widespread agreement that English is necessary for non-English speakers, according to DeMont Heinrich. After all, the U.S. does not have an official language. This is expressed in non-English speaking neighborhoods throughout the U.S. It is common to find ads, directions, and public things written in another language, most commonly in Spanish. In the article "It's a Small, Small World" says, for decades, Americans did not worry about learning a foreign language because the American economy dominated the world. But as the economy has gone global, the world has shrunk in a sense. The smaller the world gets, the more the U.S. needs tools to facilitate understanding of other nations, in which language is such a tool, according to Austin. Americans have generally been apathetic about learning a second language, emphasized in our idea that it's a good idea, but it is not necessary. Most developed nations are ahead of the game in piloting second language courses for children at a young age. According to an article in the New York Times, about 60% of Europeans speak 2 or more languages fluently, most commonly including English. All businesses ultimately have an international connection. In the U.S., foreign language learning and its concomitant cultural understandings have never been high on the nation's educational agenda. Whereas in most European countries, students have opportunities and requirements to learn a second and even third language, beginning in childhood, according to Sigsbee. Other nations offer more language courses in secondary schools and universities, as well as in several other countries that are non-European. Asia is currently on the uprise for promoting bilingualism in elementary schools. Nancy Rhodes, director for the Center of Applied Linguistics, a research group in Washington, says, "They know that if children start early, they can develop language skills of a native speaker. It gets more difficult as you grow older. But while educators have long known that children absorb languages better in their grammar school years, it is only in recent years that schools have begun to offer classes. In fact, the average American student starts learning a foreign language at age 14. This is 6 years after the average student in Austria, France, or Russia, according to Baldoff. Not saying America is on the decline for a world power, but there are several countries that are capitalizing and coming in a close second, such as China. To improve relations with these countries, it is necessary to make bilingualism more of a priority. On a personal note, I know that I'm frustrated that I am not fluent in Spanish. I've been taking Spanish classes since 6th grade, and currently I'm a minor in it. And I've come to realize that if I ever want to be fluent, I need to study abroad or spend an extended amount of time in a foreign nation. The problem with American westernized values is that we are a world power and there is no need to learn about other cultures, assuming they will assimilate into ours. The solution is to implement the teaching of a second language course at a young age for American children. By doing this, the next generation will have skills to compete with the global market and somewhat deter the stereotype that we are ignorant Americans. We have already begun to see the effects of this realization. Foreign language classes have typically been relegated to high school years, but in primary schools across the country, such study is clearly experiencing a boom. Nearly 1/3 of the nation's public and private elementary schools offer foreign language classes, up 10% since 1987. Reasons for this increase range from children's natural language abilities, to cultural awareness, to parental concerns for their children to have job prospects in the era of global trade, according to Baldoff. In our class survey, 12 out of 14 of us agreed that it is vital to learn a second language early on, and 2 of us even explained that they have been studying a second language since primary school. The government has even begun to recognize this issue. In 2006, President Bush launched the National Security Language Initiative, described as a plan to further strengthen national security and prosperity in the 21st century through education, especially in development of foreign language skills. Such a plan developed a far more linguistically competent American population, according to legalese. The U.S. ought to be motivated, if not for our own prosperity, to compete with other world powers, but to increase competence by becoming bilingual. The most proactive way to accomplish this is through early education of another language.